Welcome back to the series. Today we are fixing an issue with the character movement and also starting work on the HUD. At the end of this video you should have something that looks like this. A character that suffers from hunger, thirst and fall damage. So let's get started and open our project. First thing, we need to fix the error that I did in the first episode. Go ahead and open up the BP_player character. In here, you can see we use the capsule component as the rotation. But this is wrong, we need to use the control rotation, so delete this part. We get the control rotation, and for the right vector we need the roll and yaw. For the forward vector we just use the yaw, keeping everything else at 0. Now when we test the movement, the character moves more freely, following the direction of the camera instead of fighting against it. It feels more natural, more responsive, and most importantly, predictable. Small fix, big difference. Now let's create the widgets we need. Create a new folder called widgets, and in that folder we create two user interfaces. One called WBP_Main HUD and another called WBP_Stats. Let's open the Stats widget. We are going to keep the layout nice and simple. Add a size box and set the width override to 350. You can also set the viewport to desired size so that we can see what the widget will look like. Inside that, add a horizontal box. On the left, add another size box with a width override of 100. Then place a text block inside it with the text aligned left and vertically centered. Beside that, add a progress bar and let it fill the remaining space. Now we finalize some of the design. Make sure that status label and progress bar is a variable so that we can access these within the graph. In the graph of the stats widget, we need to create two more variables. We need a text variable called status label text and a float variable called percentage. Make sure these variables are marked as instance editable and exposed on spawn. This allows us to edit these variables within other widgets, so we can have a dynamic status label and set the percentage dynamically. Next we need to add in the pre-construct and construct event I deleted earlier. We use the pre-construct to set the widget within the editor, and construct allows it to be set within the game. This is a duplicate call, but it helps out within editing. Now we create some functions. We only need two for this widget. fn_set status text and fn_set percentage. You can see why setting functions and blueprints with prefixes is a good habit soon. All the functions do in the widget is just set the text and set the percentage respectively. Then we tie this into both the pre-construct and construct event. We can also add a new variable for the design of the progress bar and make sure this exposed and editable. This will allow us to change the design of the progress bar along with the status label and percentage within other widgets without having to cast to anything. We can just reuse and change the data. Booking Nice, a simple status widget. This can be changed to any design you like, just as long as we expose the reusable functions. Now we turn our attention to the main widget. This will be the player's main HUD. Start with a canvas panel as the root, then add a vertical box. Anchor this to the bottom left. Inside the vertical box, we can now add our stat bars. Add 3 instances of WBP stat bar, one for health, one for hunger, and one for thirst. We can use the variables we exposed to change the details within the stat bar, setting the status label, the percentage, and the color of the progress bar without having to open and edit the stats widget. Now onto the graph. We add a variable so that we can get the information we require for the stats. Add survival component as a variable with the survival component, not survival character as I have done. Make it instance editable and expose on spawn. This allows us to set this variable when the widget is created. Next we create a new event called initialize. This will be called to bind all our stats to the correct events from the survival component. Drag in the variable survival component and find the hunger onChangeBind and create a new function event. Do this for all 3 of the onChange binds, creating a function event for each. we need to make sure that we set the stats bar widgets as variables so that we can access them within the graph. So back to the design. Set them as variables. In each of the functions we made for the events, we just need to drag in the relevant stat widget, drag off the widget variable, and type fn, our prefix. This will show both of the custom functions we made in the stats widget, and as this is event function, we already have the percentage as an input. So just connect them. Do this for all three functions. Next and final step is to set up the HUD so that it's shown to the player. This is an easy step. We just edit the BP_player controller, get the player pawn, cast to our BP player character, get the survival component. We then create new widget, set it to our WBP_main HUD, and you should see an input for the survival component. If you don't, then make sure you set this as exposed on spawn in the main HUD. Finally, we just need to initialize the HUD. Call our initialize event, then simply add the widget to the viewport. And that's it. We now have a working survival stats shown to the player, so let's test them. Now we can click play in editor and check that the widget is spawned on the screen and that the stats are slowly draining. You can edit the values in the DA_player needs we created in the last episode to change the values. But now, let's test the fall damage to see if this works. Here I am just adding 3 blocks of stairs that I can run up and fall off the other end to see the fall damage. If this does not work for you, please check and edit the settings in the player needs data asset. That's it for this episode. We can see everything working. In the next episode, we will look at interaction and how to refill the player's stats with world items. Please like, subscribe or don't. I'm not your dad, but I'll be back anyway.